Hello, my name is Hope Mickey, and this is my argument analysis for Communications 1270. I chose to do mine on this opinion piece from CNN. President Biden should reapprove the Willow Project, Comm. You can see that it's an opinion piece by these three authors right here. And down here on the editor's note, it gives a little bit of information about the authors. It gives them some credibility. So they are Republican senators and a Democratic U.S. representative from the state of Alaska. The people who wrote it, they're very educated. They know what they're talking about. They link 29 other articles backing up their argument that vary from statistical reports. They vary from news outlets. They have the argument is in support of reapproving the Willow Project. And then due to my time restrictions, some of the argument has been cut out. So I'm gonna have to move my face around, but that's okay. So the Willow Project should be approved. I'm gonna start with the state support and the benefits. A lot of the indigenous groups of Alaska are supporting it, and the authors argue that would help with racial and social equality and equity. It will help the state economy and to help lower their gas prices, which are currently at an $18 a gallon. Not very good. The other thing they provide is economic benefits. It's going to provide jobs, of which will be unionized, and $17 billion in revenue for the federal government to use, such as building schools, roads, whatever they decide to do. Logistically, they have this designated area for the pipeline since 1976. ConocoPhillips, the developer, has been paying for it since the early 2000s. They had a decade of environmental studies backing up that it would be okay to put it here. The development was encouraged by the Obama administration. They applied to develop it in 2018, back in the Trump administration, and they've had many modifications to the plan since then, such as cutting down on environmental impact and cutting down on carbon emissions. Speaking of environmental impact, plan modifications, they're using way less land than they originally planned to. Meticulous planning to minimize impact. They're not going to ruin as much of the environment as people think so. They're going to have a lot of control over the emissions. The U.S. can regulate it better. And clean energy is a long time coming. The other main issue that they bring up is national security. They have a lot of international imports. Oil is very high in demand by Americans, and they import it from Russia, Venezuela, and Saudi Arabia, all three of which have high emissions. Less power to the OPEC, which is the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. It's more power to the people, more power for the U.S. We have more control over what oil is in the world, what oil is not being produced, what emissions are not being produced. And also, if we are cutting down on our imports of oil, we are cutting down on people's production, which means we are cutting down on the drilling in the Amazon rainforest, which is a major issue, but that is a whole other story. Strengths and weaknesses of the argument. They give a brief history of what they're arguing for with the logistics. They're going all the way back. They're making sure that the people know that this isn't just a new thing. They're explaining the project when it was culturally irrelevant, like when they purchased the land back in 1976, back in the Obama-Biden administration. Another thing is their argument is backed up by facts from many different sources, and they're only linking the articles. They're not polluting the argument with fact after fact after fact, which is very nice. Weaknesses, they do not give details on the environmental impact. They give a lot of statistics on, the economic benefits, but they don't give a lot of details on the environmental impact, the negative sides, which is okay because, again, it's an opinion article. They could have failed. They have failed to mention that the Alaskan economy always struggles, and that having an $18 per gallon price is kind of average, kind of normal. They failed to mention the current U.S. gas prices issue, and they don't address the opposing or the left side of the argument. They could have addressed those issues. Constructive criticism for their weaknesses. Many left-leaning citizens care more about the environmental impact of the project as opposed to the economic impact, which is more of a Republican opinion. If the authors were to address those worries more, the argument would be more well-rounded, and it would feel like they know what they're talking about and they know what people are worried about. Final thoughts, let me move myself again. It is a good argument, and it does the job to persuade the reader. I felt like I was persuaded. They could have kept their bias in check a little bit, but again, it is an opinion article, and it is from politicians, so there's not much we can do there. 10 out of 10. I thought it was good. And yes, thank you.